Hello. Can everybody hear me? Uh-oh, I'm moving the mouse. Uh-oh. Oh no, our cheers thing is turning on again. I'm gonna turn that off for now. I'm moving the mouse and someone is noticing it. Ooh, look how fun that is. Hello, Jeff. Ultimate Weapon, Daniel, Jonathan, welcome. We are continuing our reading from last week of the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, or modaozushi. We'll do a quick catch-up for those that maybe don't know the story or haven't been keeping up with it. We've only read like a chapter and a half, but come on, Batman. Don't you want to hang out? Even for a minute? You don't want to hang out? Why not? Why not? You want to play with the screen. That's what you're looking at, is the computer screen. See if I moved a mouse. Batman. Alright, I let you go. Bye, Batman. Thud. The kitties are running around, so we may see them. They just had their lunch, and now they're free to cause chaos in the world. Alright, so, modaozushi. The Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation is a Chinese web novel that has recently been translated and released in English. It is the story of a kind of a high fantasy setting in a Chinese genre called shansha. The main character, Wei Wuxian, was a terrible, bad villain who died and has now been resurrected. And it's kind of the adventures of this guy who's been demonized by society while he tries to put his life back together in his new life, his second life. Last time, he was at the Mo Manor, which is a house that is, well, not a house, but like a mansion with a well-off family. The family he was kind of reincarnated into, the body he's possessing belongs to this family. They are having their house exorcised because there's lots of nasties around. And so some young cultivators have come to take care of that. And Wei Wuxian has become involved because he wants, he's curious and wants to know what's going on and help out these kids who are doing their first exorcism or what have you. Last time we left off with Wei Wuxian messing around with the kids. And let's see if that's right where we... yes. He had messed with the kids and then he walked off, kind of just doing his own thing. Batman is now meowing at me. And we are going to start off with Wei Wuxian wandering the mansion. Do we have our music playing? Let me know if you can hear the music. I'm not sure. I had some music from the show playing. Alright, we should be good. As for Wei Wuxian, he wandered idly about for a while. It wasn't until after dark that he returned to Mo Xuanyu's little courtyard. The door latch was snapped, without anyone to clean up the mess. He ignored it and picked a somewhat clean spot in the room before sitting down and continuing to meditate. Yet unexpectedly, it hadn't reached the morning hours when a noisy commotion outside pulled him out of his meditative state. A clamor of footsteps mixed with wailing and screaming was rapidly approaching, and Wei Wuxian heard these cries repeatedly. Break in and drag him out. Report him to the authorities. Who cares about the authorities? Just beat him to death. You don't hear any music? Let's see if it's... Oh, that would be why. Now you should hear music. Oh, now I hear music. We don't want that feedback. Stop. There we go. Okay, now only you should hear it, hopefully. Okay. He opened his eyes just as a number of servants charged in. The entire courtyard was lit up as bright as day, and someone was shouting, "Drag that murdering lunatic to the main hall and make him pay with his life!" Wei Wuxian's first thought was, did something go wrong with the flag formation? The smallest carelessness in the usage of his inventions could cause disaster, which was why he had earlier purposely gone to verify whether the spirit attraction flag had been properly drawn. Thus, when large hands came to drag him out the door, Wei Wuxian lay there limply, allowing himself to be dragged out. It saved him the trouble anyway. He was dragged to the East Hall, where it was as lively as could be. Surprisingly, there were no fewer townspeople gathered there than there had been during the day. Many of the servants and close family relations had come, some still dressed in inner robes, not having had time to coif their hair, panic painted on each of their faces. Lady Mo sat slumped in her seat as if she had only just awoken from having fainted. There were traces of tears on the sides of her cheeks, the rims of her eyes still wet. However, the moment Wei Wuxian was dragged in, her tears instantly transformed into a baleful glare. On the ground, there lay something that resembled the form of a human. The body was covered by a white sheet, and only its head was exposed. Lan Shizui... I was practicing this name, let me get it. Lan Shizui. Shizui. I saw Heaven's Official on Netflix. Is this normal? I'm going to watch it. Yes, that's the first season of the animated show for the other book by this author, one of the other books. Scumbag Villain also has an animated show, but it's not on Netflix yet, I don't think, which is a shame. Lan Shizui and those youths were bent down over it, inspecting the body solemnly and whispering to each other. Their words filtered into Wei Wuxian's ears. It hasn't been one incense's time since it was discovered. Now a note. Time back then was measured in different ways. I think they measured by every 2 hours rather than by every 1 hour. And an incense is like the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn. So that's how long it's been since something has happened. Right after subduing the walking corpses, we were rushing to the east courtyard, and the dead body was lying there in the corridor. The body was Mo Siyuan, the bully. Wei Wuxian swept a glance over him, then took another look in spite of himself. The corpse looked like Mo Siyuan, but at the same time, he wasn't. While the facial features were clearly that of his cheap little cousin, the cheeks were deeply sunken, the eyeballs bulging, and the skin wrinkled. It was as if he'd aged 20 years compared to the previous Mo Siyuan, who had been in the prime of his youth. It also seemed as if he'd been sucked dry of his blood and flesh. He looked like a mere sack of bones dressed in an extremely thin veil of skin. If it could have been said that Mo Siyuan was from before simply ugly, his corpse now was old and ugly. Hello, Pensword and Bad Done Well. Thank you for joining us. I do believe you're new folks around here. Thank you. Oh, hello, Alfred. Alfred would like to say hello. Yes. You join us for reading, Alfred? Wei Wuxian was just taking a detailed look when Madame Mo suddenly came charging over. Something shining flashed in her hand. She was holding a dagger. Moving as fast as his eyes saw, Lan Shizui knocked it out of her hand, but before he could say anything, Madame Mo was already screaming at him. "My son died a tragic death! I need to avenge him! What are you stopping me for?" Wei Wuxian once again ducked behind Lan Shizui and shot back. "What does your son's tragic death have to do with me?" One moment. Yeah, we're having an incident. Alfred would really like to be friends with the other animals in this household, and Bob doesn't want to be. Alfred, you're tempting death. Tempting death, Alfred. Lan Shizui had watched Wei Wuxian make a scene during the day, then later heard plenty of exaggerated rumors about this illegitimate son from the others. He felt great pity for this mentally ill person, and couldn't help but try and speak up for the man. "Madame Mo, the state of your son's corpse is clearly the work of evil. Its blood, flesh, and spirit have been completely sucked out. He could not have been the culprit." Madame Mo's chest heaved. "What do you know? This lunatic's father is a cultivator. He must have learned plenty of evil magic." Lan Shizui looked back and took a glance at the seemingly half-witted Wei Wuxian. "Madam, there is no evidence, so it is still best—" "The evidence is on my son's body!" Madame Mo pointed at the corpse on the ground. "Take a look yourselves. Aoyuan's dead body has already told me who the murderer is." Without waiting for the others to make a move, Wei Wuxian raced to pull back the sheet from head to toe. Mo Siyuan's corpse had something missing. His left arm from the shoulder down had vanished as if it had sprouted wings. Madame Mo added, "You see that? You all heard him today, right? What this lunatic said? That if Aoyan touched his things again, he would chop off Aoyan's arm." After her hysterics had settled, she covered her face and sobbed. My poor Aoyan never touched anything of this lunatic's. Not only was he slandered, he was killed by this maniac. Maniac. It was so endearing. How many years had it been since he'd heard himself described in such a way? Wei Wuxian pointed at himself, but he didn't have the words to rebuke this particular statement. He didn't know either whether he really was mental or if Madame Mo was the one who was ill. After all, he had boasted about slaughtering entire sects, laying waste to millions, making blood flow like rivers, and other such things when he was younger. But that was all talk, most of the time. If he really could do all that, he would have tyrannized the world already. Madame Mo wasn't trying to avenge her son at all. She was only looking for someone to vent her anger on. I love this Wei Wuxian. In the shows, the anime is probably closer, well, not anime, Chinese animation's called Donghua, is probably closer to the book than the TV show is, but in the TV show, he's a lot more of a misaligned like he's judged poorly, but he means well and he does well. Well, in the book, sure, he means well, but he's also much more evil, like pointedly chaotic. Like, the book does not try to make him appear as innocent as some of the other versions of the story do, where this book's like, yeah, I killed people. Yeah, I was a mass murderer. Ugh, it's been so long since someone called me an evil maniac. I love it. Wei Wuxian didn't want to bother with her. After a moment of thought, he reached into Mo Siyuan's robes and searched, finally digging something out. When he unfolded that something, it was a spirit attraction flag. In that instant, it dawned on him. He muttered under his breath, Mo Siyuan brought this on himself. When Lan Shizui and the others saw the item taken out of Mo Siyuan's robe, they also understood what had happened. Thinking back to the farce that had taken place during the day, it wasn't hard to deduce what had transpired. Earlier, Mo Siyuan had lost considerable face due to Mo Xuanyu's hysterics, filling him with hatred. He'd had a mind to settle scores, but Mo Xuanyu had gone out frolicking, nowhere to be found. So Mo Siyuan had intended to wait until nighttime to teach Mo Xuanyu an underhanded lesson. Yet when night came and he snuck out the door, as he passed by the west courtyard, he saw the spirit attraction flags planted atop the wall eaves. While there were strict instructions against going out at night, and that the west courtyard was forbidden and the black flags were not to be touched under any circumstances, Mo Siyuan thought the cultivators were purposefully scaring people off because they were afraid of others stealing their precious spiritual weapons. He was unaware of just how dangerous and ominous the effects of the flags were, and that once held, a flag would make the bearer a living target. Mo Siyuan's hands had never been clean. He'd grown addicted to stealing the talismans and spiritual tools belonging to his crazy older cousin. When he saw the magical objects, he couldn't help but feel the itch to take them for himself, no matter the cost. Thus, while the owners of the flags were subduing walking corpses in the west courtyard, he secretly plucked one away. The flag formation utilized 6 spirit attraction flags, 5 of which were set up in the west courtyard using the youths from the Lan family as bait. However, they themselves were protected by the countless spiritual tools they carried on their persons. Although Mo Siyuan had only stolen the one flag, he didn't have any protective tools on him. Go after the weakest, as they say. Naturally, the evil spirits were lured to him. If it had only been walking corpses, it wouldn't have been a big deal. At most, he would have been bitten a couple times. It wouldn't have resulted in his death. There still would have been a chance to save him. Yet it just so happened this spirit attraction flag had unintentionally summoned something more terrifying than walking corpses. And it was precisely this unknown evil spirit that had killed Mo Siyuan, and official ritual had acknowledged Mo Siyuan's death as his doing. After all, the spirit attraction flags were Wei Wuxian's invention, so he'd hit the mark out of pure luck. If you don't remember, he needs to avenge Mo Xuanyu, the guy who summoned him to possess his body. And that vengeance is he wants his family murdered, because his family sucks. So one down! Madame Mo was perfectly aware of her son's little flaws, but she would never admit Mo Siyuan caused his own death. Anxious and aggravated, she picked up a teacup and hurled it at Wei Wuxian's face. If you hadn't made a scene and framed him in front of so many people yesterday, would he have gone out in the middle of the night? It's all your fault, you bastard! Wei Wuxian was already prepared and sidestepped to dodge the attack. Madame Mo then screamed at Lan Shizui. And you bunch of useless fools! What cultivators are you? What evil can you exercise? You can't even protect a child! Aoyan is so young! Those youths were still green and only had so much experience under their belt. They hadn't detected anything unusual in the area, which was why they'd never thought there'd be such a ferocious evil. At first, they'd felt sorry because they felt themselves lacking, but after Madame Mo's indiscriminate tongue-lashing, they were crowing upset. After all, they came from a distinguished clan. No one had ever treated them this way. The teachings of the Lan clan of Gusu were extremely strict. They forbade raising a hand against normal folk, and not even rudeness was allowed. Even though they were irritated, they had to force it down, causing dark expressions to cloud their faces. Wei Wuxian couldn't take it anymore. He thought, after so many years, the Lan family still acts this way. What's the use of all that self-restraint unless you're looking to suffocate yourselves? Watch me. He spat loudly. Who do you think you're yelling at? Do you really take them to be your servants? They came all this way to exercise evil for free, and now they owe you? How old is your son again? 17 at least, right? A child still? How old do you have to be to understand human words? Did they not instruct us again and again yesterday not to go near the west courtyard, not to touch anything in the formation? Your son snuck out in the middle of the night to dally about. Is that my fault, or is that his fault? Go boy, go boy. Does she get possessed? Wait and see. Hello, Kei-chan, welcome. Lan Jingyi and the others let out a breath, no longer looking as upset. Madame Mo was both extremely sad and resentful, and her mind was filled with nothing but thoughts of death. More specifically, it wasn't thoughts of herself dying to accompany her son, but rather thoughts of having everyone in the world die, especially the ones currently in front of her. Lovely woman. Whenever something happened, she'd always ordered her husband around, so she shoved him. Call everyone in! Call everyone in here! However, her husband was in a daze. Perhaps the shock of the death of his only son was too great, but he shoved her back. Knocked down to the ground so abruptly, Madame Mo was stunned. If this had been before, Madame Mo needn't have pushed him. As long as she raised her voice a tiny bit, he'd do whatever she said. Yet today, he dared fight back. The servants were all terrified by her expression, and a trembling Ading helped her stand. Madame Mo grabbed her heart and said with a shaking voice, You get lost too! Her husband seemed not to have heard. Ading shot Atong a number of looks, and Atong quickly got his master out. It was chaos within the East Hall. Seeing how the family was finally quieting down, Wei Wuxian went to inspect the corpse further. However, he had barely glanced at it before another high-pitched scream pierced through the door. The crowd inside the hall poured out and were greeted with the sight of two bodies spasming on the ground in the east courtyard. One was a slumped Atong, alive. The other was collapsed on the ground, its body wrinkled and withered as if its blood and flesh had been completely sucked dry. Its left arm was already gone, and there was no blood flowing from the wound. The state of the corpse was exactly the same as Mo Siwan's. Oh, hey, Alice, welcome. Madame Mo had just shaken off Ading's supporting hand, but when she saw the corpse lying on the ground, she was stunned in place. The last of her energy, at last exhausted of the energy to throw more fits, she fainted. Wei Wuxian happened to be standing near her, so he caught her and passed her to Ading as she came running over. He then took a glance at his right hand. A cut was gone as well. So polite of him. Wei Wuxian, you missed the chance to just let her go. Madame Mo's husband had only stepped out into the threshold of the hall. He hadn't even entered the yard before he died tragically on the spot. Everything had happened within an instant. Lan Shizui, Lan Jingyi, and the others paled, but Lan Shizui was the first to compose himself. He questioned the slumped Atong. Did you see what it was? Atong was thoroughly horrified. His teeth clenched so hard he couldn't utter a word for a moment, only shaking his head. Lan Shizui, burning with impatience, instructed his peers to bring the boy inside before he turned to Lan Jingyi. Did you fire the signal? I did, Lan Jingyi replied, but if there are no seniors nearby who can come to offer assistance, our people will probably take at least an hour before they can make it here. What can we do? We don't even know what it is right now. It was, of course, impossible for them to leave. If a clan's disciples only cared about escape when running into evil spirits, not only would they embarrass the clan, but they themselves would be too ashamed to go out again. The terrified folks of the Mo household could not leave with them either. The evil spirit was most likely among them, so it would have been useless even if they fled. Hello, Paul. Let's move that. Lan Shizui clenched his teeth. Stay on guard until help arrives. Since the distress signal was already fired, other cultivators would soon come to their aid. In order to avoid adding to the present trouble, by all accounts, Wei Wuxian should have retreated. Best if whoever came was no one he knew. If it was someone he'd crossed paths with before or had fought with, it was hard to tell what would happen. With the sacrificial ritual's curse on him, he could not leave the Mo estate yet. Besides, if the summoned creature could take 2 lives within such a short span of time, it was abnormally ferocious. If Wei Wuxian dropped everything and left, by the time reinforcements arrived, the entire Mo estate would have its streets filled with corpses missing their left arms. And surely some of those corpses would include the familial disciples of the Lan clan of Gusu. Of course he's gonna consider the Gusu clan, because he's got friends there. After a moment's deliberation, Wei Wuxian said to himself, "Let's end this quickly." The youths were fledglings, each of them looking nervous. Despite that, they still scrupulously took their places to protect the Mo Manor and struck talismans inside and outside of the hall. The servant Atong had already been carried inside, and Lan Shizui checked his pulse with his left hand, while his right massaged Madame Mo's back. He couldn't treat both at once, and was in a sorry dilemma when suddenly Atong crawled up from the ground. Ading exclaimed, "Atong, you're awake!" Before any delight could cross her face, Atong raised his left hand and seized his own neck. Seeing this, Lan Shizui targeted several of Atong's acupoints with a triple tap of his hand apiece. Wei Wuxian knew that while the Lan clan appeared gentle on the surface, their arm strength was not gentle in the least. Using that method, anyone could be rendered thoroughly unable to move. However, Atong appeared not to have felt a thing. His left hand gripped harder and harder, his face scrunching more and more with pain. Lan Jingyi went over to pull at his left hand, but it was like trying to break off a chunk of iron, immovable. Moments later, crack. Atong's head drooped down, and only then did the hand let go, but his neck was already broken. He had actually strangled himself before the eyes of all. Seeing this, I mixed their names up. Seeing this, Ading's voice trembled. "A ghost! There's an invisible ghost here, and it made Atong strangle himself!" Her voice was shrill and sad, raising hairs on everyone's necks. They all believed her. Wei Wuxian determined it to be the exact opposite, however. It wasn't a malicious ghost. He had seen the talismans the youths had chosen, and they were the spirit-repelling type. They had plastered the entire East Hall with them airtight. If this really were a malicious spirit, the talismans would have immediately burned with green flames when they entered the hall. Things would not be as quiet as they were now. It wasn't that this group of youths was slow to react. It was that the intruder was truly ferocious in nature. The cultivation sects had strict criteria for determining whether something was a malicious ghost. Does it bark? If it barks, it's a malicious ghost by the name of Lola. Never heard of this book. It's very, very good. And this is only the 2nd chapter. So if you desire to catch up, the other reading is on the book channel, which will be linked in the description. Or you can also purchase the translation at your Barnes & Noble. Let's see, where were we? The cultivation sects had strict criteria for determining whether something was a malicious ghost. One was considered such if it killed once a month, or for up to 3 months consecutively. This was a criterion Wei Wuxian himself had set, and it was probably still in use now. I love that he just drops stuff like, yeah, this invention's what everybody uses, and I invented that. Yeah, me, Dark Evil Overlord, I invented that. I love it. Dealing with this type was his specialty, and based on what he'd seen, killing once every 7 days would make this creature a malicious ghost that had caused particularly frequent mischief. However, this thing had just killed 3 times in a row in a short time span, too. Even accomplished cultivators would be hard-pressed to come up with a counter-strategy, never mind these novice juniors. Just as he was thinking this, the firelight flashed. A blast of sinister wind whipped by, and every lantern and every candle in the entire courtyard, including the East Hall, was extinguished. Screams erupted the instant the light went out. The men and women pushed... men and women barked? No. The men and women pushed and shoved, falling and fleeing. Lan Wangji shouted, "Stay where you are! Don't run! We'll arrest whoever runs!" Those words were not spoken without reason. Wreaking havoc in the dark and taking advantage of confusion was the nature of evil spirits. The more the people screamed and ran amok, the easier it would be to attract trouble unknowingly. It was extremely dangerous to be left alone or to lose one's head at a time like this. And yet it could not be helped that everyone was scared out of their wits. So how could they possibly pay attention to and heed any instructions? It didn't take long before the East Hall fell quiet with only the sound of light breaths and faint sniffling. Most had probably left. In the darkness, a firelight suddenly flared. It was Lan Shizui, who had lit an illumination talisman. The flames of the talisman could not be extinguished by the sinister wind that carried evil, and he used this talisman to relight the candles anew. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but Batman would like to say hello. Hi, buddy. Under the light, Wei Wuxian took a nonchalant glance at his wrists. Another cut had healed. It was then that he suddenly realized the number of cuts were wrong. There had been 2 cuts on his left wrist and 2 on his right. One cut had healed after Mo Xiwan's death, another healed after the death of Mo Xiwan's father, and a third after the death of the servant Atong. Tallying that up, there should have been 3 healed cuts, leaving only the cut with the deepest wound and the deepest hatred. But now there was nothing on his wrists. Not a single cut was left. Wei Wuxian trusted that Madame Mo was definitely among those that Mo Xuanyu wished to seek revenge upon. The longest and deepest gash was likely for her, and it had surprisingly vanished. Was it Mo Xuanyu who had suddenly let go and abandoned his hatred? That was impossible. His soul had been sacrificed as the price for summoning Wei Wuxian. In order for the cut to heal, Madame Mo had to die, unless... He slowly moved his gaze from his wrist to Madame Mo, who had recently roused and was surrounded by the crowd. Her face was white as a sheet. Unless she was already dead. Wei Wuxian was sure something had already possessed Madame Mo. If it was not a spirit, what could it be? I found a show called The Untamed. Yes, The Untamed is the TV show based off of the book. We got to like episode 47, Jeff. I don't think we finished the last bit of the show. We did finish watching seasons 1 and 2 of the animated show, and season 3 is finally out, so we're gonna start watching it again. Probably start with episode 1 tomorrow on the Discord. We'll talk about that more later. Now, I should explain real quick for folks who are still catching up or don't know what's going on exactly. Wei Wuxian is a resurrected necromancer. He's evil because he uses necromancy, basically, which is not approved, not allowed, and we're about to get to some necromancy. Also, this is a love story, and the love interest is going to show up soon. You'll know. Let's see. Suddenly, Ding cried, Hand! Atong's left arm! Lan Shizui moved the illumination talisman over Atong's corpse. Sure enough, the left arm had also vanished. The left arm. In a flash of a second, everything was clear. The creature causing mischief and the vanishing left arms formed a connection that clicked in Wei Wuxian's mind. He suddenly snorted and burst out laughing. Lan Jingyi huffed. That dummy, how can he laugh at a time like this? But then he realized that given the man was a dummy, what was the point of bothering with him in the first place? However, Wei Wuxian grabbed Lan Jingyi's sleeve and shook his head. No. Lan Jingyi irritably tried to pull his sleeve back. No what? Not a dummy? Stop playing around. No one's got time for you. Wei Wuxian pointed at Father Mo and Atong's corpses on the ground. That's not them. Lan Shizui stopped Lan Jingyi, who was about to blow up. He asked, You said that's not them. What do you mean? Wei Wuxian replied solemnly, This isn't Mo Xiwan's dad, and that's not Atong either. Oh, as a explanation also, since this is about to happen, He is wearing makeup. The person that resurrected him was a lunatic who wore makeup all the time, and so he is wearing a lot of makeup. With his face smeared in makeup, the more solemn he was, the more it really felt like he was mentally off. However, under the haunting candlelight, his words were surprisingly hair-raising. Lan Shizui was stunned for a moment, then questioned him in spite of himself. Why is that? Wei Wuxian said smugly, because of the hand. They're not left-handed. They always beat me with their right hands. I know that much at least. Lan Jingyi lost his patience and spat. What are you so smug for? Look at that pleased face. Lan Shizui, however, had broken out in a cold sweat from the shock. Thinking back, Atong... Cats. You need to leave Bob alone. Bob does not want you, Alfred. Poor Bobby. Let's see. Thinking back, Atong had strangled himself using his left hand, and when Madame Mo's husband pushed his wife down, he had also used his left hand. But during the day, when Mo Xuanyu had been causing a ruckus in the East Hall, those two had been busy trying to trace him out, using their habitual right hands. Surely they couldn't have both turned into left-handers all of a sudden, right before their deaths. Although the cause was presently unknown, in order to investigate what was causing mischief, they had to start with the left arms. Having come to the conclusion, Lan Shizui sent a bewildered look at Wei Wuxian. Despite himself, he thought, for him to suddenly say something like that really doesn't seem like a coincidence. Wei Wuxian only continued to laugh cheekily, knowing that the hint had been too conspicuous, but there was no other way. Don't you hate it when you're trying to act like a lunatic and you're just a little too smart and people start catching on? Thankfully, Lan Shizui didn't dig into it, thinking, either way, since this Mo Gongzi was willing to call attention to it for me, it seems it wasn't done out of ill... Why are you on the counter? No. One moment. Batman! No, Batman. Why are you all wet? Batman, how did you get all wet? What did you do? Oh, Batman. You're soaked. Baby. Oh, dumb baby. All right. He moved his gaze from Wei Wuxian, swept it over Ding, who had fainted from weeping, and landed his eyes on Madame Mo. His eyes traveled down from her face to her hands. Her arms were hanging by her sides, mostly hidden in the sleeves, revealing only the tips of her fingers. The fingers of her right hand were snow white and slim, truly the hand of a woman who lived in privilege without the hardship of labor. However, the fingers of her left hand were longer and thicker than those of the right. The knuckles were curled, filled with strength. It was clearly the hand of a man. "Hold her down!" Lan Shizui shouted. The youths had already twisted Madame Mo's arm back in a hold. With a "forgive me," Lan Shizui pulled out a talisman. He was ready to slap it down when Madame Mo's left arm twisted at an impossible angle, aiming for his throat. The only way for a living human to twist their arm that way would be if their bones were broken. The hand's movements were fast, and it would have seized his neck had it not been for Lan Jingyi tackling Lan Shizui with a loud "Gah!" and blocking the attack for him. There was a flash of firelight. The hand had only just grabbed Lan Jingyi's shoulder when green flames flared to life at the same spot. It instantly loosened its grip. Having escaped death, Lan Shizui was just about to thank Lan Jingyi for coming to his rescue when he saw that half of Lan Jingyi's uniform had been burned to ashes, making him look incredibly unkempt. Flustered and enraged, Lan Jingyi stripped off the unburnt half of his uniform as he looked back and yelled, "Why did you kick me, stupid lunatic? Did you want me killed?" Wei Wuxian scurried away, hugging his head. "It wasn't me!" It was most certainly he who had kicked Lan Jingyi. The outer robe of the Lan family's uniform was tightly embroidered with spells and incantations inside it, lining to provide its protection. However, the effect would have been nullified after one use when encountering a formidable creature such as this. Under these dire circumstances, Wei Wuxian could only give Lan Jingyi a kick to make him use his body to shield Lan Shizui's neck. Lan Jingyi was going to yell some more, but Madame Mo collapsed to the ground. The flesh and blood of her face had been drained so utterly that only a layer of skin pressing against her skull remained. The man's arm that did not belong to her fell off her left shoulder, yet its fingers could still move as it willed. It was as if it were stretching, the pulsing of its veins clearly visible. That thing was the evil that had been summoned by the spirit attraction flag. Dismemberment was a standard violent death. It was a little more dignified than the way Wei Wuxian had died, though not by much. Unlike being crushed to ashes, the limbs of a dismembered corpse retained a part of the grudges of the deceased. One would yearn to return to its body, yearn to die a complete corpse. Thus it would attempt to seek out the other parts of its body. Once found, the corpse would then perhaps rest in peace and satisfaction, or perhaps wreak greater havoc. If the rest of the original body wasn't found, however, a limb could only go for the second best option. What was the second best option? Seek out the bodies of the living humans and make do, just as this left arm had demonstrated. Devour the left arm of the living, take its place, and suck out the human spirit, blood, and flesh. Then abandon the body to continue searching for the next host. This would continue until all parts of the original corpse were found. Once this arm attached itself to a body, it was instant death for the host. Though prior to their blood and flesh being completely eaten, the human could still move normally under the arm's control, as if still alive. After the arm had been summoned, the first vessel it found was Mo Xiuan. The second vessel was Mo Xiuan's father. When Madame Mo had told her husband to get lost, he'd acted out of character and pushed her. At first, Wei Wuxian had thought it was because the man was heartbroken because of his son's death, and that he had also had enough of his wife's unreasonable behavior. In retrospect, that had not been the demeanor of a father who had just lost his son. That had not been the stupor of despair. It had been stillness, the stillness of death. The third vessel was Atong, and the fourth was Madame Mo. The left arm took advantage of the chaos when the lights went out earlier to migrate to her body. And when Madame Mo was killed, the last cut on Wei Wuxian's wrist had also vanished with her demise. Seeing how the talismans were useless, but their clothes were not, all the Lan youths stripped their outer robes and threw them at the left arm, covering and wrapping it in layers upon layers of robes like a thick white cocoon. A moment later, this ball of white clothes ignited with a whoosh, wicked green flames blazing to the skies. Though it worked for the time being, it would not last long. Once the uniforms were completely burnt, the arm would break free from the ashes. While no one was paying attention, Wei Wuxian ran straight for the west courtyard. Here we go! Over a dozen walking corpses the youths had captured were standing silently in the yard. A spell had been drawn upon the ground to seal them inside its boundary, and Wei Wuxian stomped on one of the characters, destroying the entire array. After 2 claps, the walking corpses jerked. Their white eyes opened abruptly, as if they'd been shocked awake by an expression of thunder. "Wake up," Wei Wuxian said. "Time to get to work." He never needed any complicated spells or summoning incantations to control corpse puppets. The most straightforward command would suffice. The walking corpses at the very front quivered as they struggled to shuffle a few steps. Then, the moment they approached Wei Wuxian, they fell face first to the ground like living humans, as if their legs had grown weak from terror. Not knowing whether to laugh or cry at this, Wei Wuxian clapped twice more, but much softer this time. However, these walking corpses had probably been born at the Mo estate and had died here as well. They'd never seen the world, so while they instinctively obeyed the summoner's command, they were also terrified of the summoner for some reason, lying on the ground whimpering, too afraid to get up. Don't you hate it when you're a badass necromancer and the corpses you summon are terrified of you? There's so many little details in the book that are just so great that you just can't have in the shows, just, for time and convenience sake. Like, for instance, in the book, there's a bunch of children that are, kind of dealing with this corpse army, and then later they come back. In the show, it's like 2 kids. But in the book, there's just like a bunch of ducklings following Wei Wuxian around. It's great. I love it. The crueler the evil spirit, the easier it was for Wei Wuxian to manipulate it. These walking corpses had never gone through his training, so they could not withstand his direct control. He had no materials at his disposal to immediately create a device that could ease their fear either, and nothing with which to improvise. As he watched the blazing green flames from the east courtyard gradually die down, an idea suddenly came to mind. Why go out searching to find a cruel and vicious deceased, one steeped in extreme hatred? The East Hall already had one, more than one. He darted back to the east courtyard. Lan Shizui's first plan had come to an end, so he had devised another. The youths all unsheathed their long swords, planting them in the ground to form a fence of blades. The ghost arm smashed about within the enclosure. It was taking all their energy just to hold the hilts in place and prevent them from being expelled by the force. No one had time to pay attention to who was going in and out of the hall. Wei Wuxian stepped into the hall and yanked up the corpses of Madame Mo and Mo Xiuan, one in each hand. In a low voice, he gave a command. Awake yet. At the sound of his voice, the souls returned. An instant later, Madame Mo and Mo Xiuan opened their wide eyes and let out a shrill shriek, unique to malicious ghosts at the moment of their resurrection. Amidst the high and low shrieks, another corpse crawled to its feet in trepidation, calling out feebly with a voice that could not have been any softer. It was Madame Mo's husband. The cries were loud enough, the hatred plentiful. Hello, Batman. You're so pathetic. I love it. You want to sit with me? What? What is the matter? The cries were loud enough, the hatred plentiful. Wei Wuxian was extremely pleased. Recognize that arm out there? He smiled. Tear it apart, he ordered. The three members of the Mo family were like three blasts of black wind, blowing forth in an instant. The left arm had broken a long sword. Just as it was about to break out of the pen, three left-arm fierce corpses came lunging at it. Let's explain for a moment. Can you not still call them zombies in the book? Well, I think it's basically the Chinese equivalent of zombie. Like, in the show, they are not called walking corpses, because the concept of, like, reincarnating the dead is... It's like a taboo, and Chinese television kind of censors that. So the corpses in the show are like they're called something else. They're like possessed by magic. But walking corpses is zombie. It's just, they are literally dead. Whereas in the TV show, they were not dead. Just a thing. I don't know if walking corpses what the like Chinese term is. I'm sure that it's some kind of, because I know there is a specific term for a Chinese zombie. I just don't remember what it's called. Anyway, let's see. Even aside from the fear of disobeying Wei Wuxian's command, these three carried an intense hatred for the creature that had killed them, and they unleashed all their fury upon the ghost arm. The one leading the attack was undoubtedly Madame Mo. Once reanimated female corpses were often particularly ferocious. Her hair was flying wild, her white eyes crawling with red, and her nails had burst in length exponentially. She was foaming at the mouth, her shrill cries practically raising roofs, completely crazed. Hi! That is adult kitty food. That is not baby kitty food. You can't have it. It's bad for you. What are you doing? You're bad, Batman. Very bad. I thought I had put that away from y'all, but I guess it's not high enough. Also, Alfred, Bob does not want you. You must leave Bob alone. Here. Oh, I can't move it, so you're stuck, Bob. You're gonna have to deal with that. Mo Xiuan followed his mother closely, working in concert with her to both tear and bite at the left arm while his father trailed behind them, filling in the gaps between the other two's attacks. The Lan youths who had been struggling to hang on earlier were all stunned. They had only ever heard of such fights between fierce corpses from sundry books and hearsay. This was the first time they had witnessed such a gory scene, and they gawked, unable to avert their eyes. They only had one thought in their minds. This is so exciting! The three corpses and the one arm were in the throes of battle. Suddenly, Mo Xuan shrieked as he dodged. The arm had swiped at his abdomen, and several ropes of his intestines dropped from the tear. Madame Mo snarled incessantly at the sight of this. She pulled her son behind her to shield him while escalating her attacks, her nails slicing through air as sharply as blades made of iron and steel. However, Wei Wuxian could tell she was slowly losing against the arm. Even three freshly dead fierce corpses working together could not subdue this one arm. I'm gonna have to subdue these two kittens. Well, there goes all the cat food on the floor. Okay, well now they're running out of the room, so I'm gonna have to sweep that up after this, I guess. Wei Wuxian watched the battle closely. He curled his tongue slightly, holding a sharp whistle back between his lips as he hesitated to let it loose. If he whistled, he could evoke greater hatred within the controlled, fierce corpses, and that would perhaps turn the battle. However, it would be difficult to ensure no one noticed he was the instigator. In the span of a second, the hand moved as fast as lightning, ruthless and precise as it snapped Madame Mo's neck. Seeing how the Mo family was steadily being beaten back, Wei Wuxian was just about to let loose the whistle on his tongue. Going to change something real quick, if I can figure out where I... Wei Wuxian was just about to let loose the whistle on his tongue when, right then, two strums from a guqin sounded in the far distance. That's an instrument, like a stringed instrument. The two notes were skillfully played, ethereal and clear, carrying with them the tinkling bleakness of windswept pines. The collection of demonic evils that were in the middle of a brawl all froze. The youths of the Lan clan of Gusu immediately beamed as if they'd been resurrected. Lan Shizui raised a hand to wipe away the blood on his face and then looked up, calling out in delight, "Hongguanjun!" And that's a picture of the beautiful boy. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful boy. The moment he heard the cry of that sobriquet in the distant guqin, Wei Wuxian turned to leave. Another strum. This time the note was higher pitched, piercing through the sky like the austere harshness of winter's first approach. The three fierce corpses shrank back while covering one ear with their hands at the same time. However, it was impossible to block out the eradication tone of the Lan clan of Gusu in such a way. They only managed to back up a few steps before there was the faint sound of cracking in their skulls. As for that left arm, after engaging in such a ferocious fight, hearing the sound of the strings now made it suddenly drop to the ground. Though its fingers still twitched, the arm was already lying limp and silent. After a short silence, the group of youths couldn't help but erupt in loud cheers, the sound filled with the jubilation of having survived. They had endured a terrifying night, and now that help from the clan had finally arrived, they couldn't have cared less if they were harshly punished later for disgracing the sect with a breach of etiquette. While they waved toward the moon, Lan Shizui suddenly noticed someone missing. He tugged at Lan Jingyi. "Where is he?" Lan Jingyi was busy being happy and replied, "Who? He who?" "That Mogongzi," Lan Shizui replied. "Huh? Why are you looking for that lunatic? Who knows? Maybe he was scared of getting beaten up by me and ran off somewhere." Lan Shizui knew that Lan Jingyi was unmindful and straightforward, never thinking deeply on things or harboring suspicion. He thought to himself, "I'll just wait until Hongguangjun is down here and then report to him about the man and the incident." The Mo estate slumbered soundly, though whether that peace was real or fake was difficult to tell. Even though there had been a bloody corpse fight in the Mo Manor's east and west courtyards, no one was getting up in the middle of the night to watch it. One had to pick and choose the right spectacle to watch, and a spectacle with such incessant screaming was best avoided. Wei Wuxian rapidly destroyed any remaining evidence of the sacrificial ritual array and then ran out the door. Of all the people who had to come, it had to be the Lan family. And of all the people to come, it just had to be Lan Wangji. This was someone with whom he had once crossed paths and fought, so he retreated in a hurry. Anxious to find a steed, he passed by a courtyard. He noticed a spotted donkey tied to a large millstone, chewing something in its mouth. It seemed a little surprised when it saw him come dashing over, giving him a side-eye like a person would. The instant Wei Wuxian met his eyes, he was immediately moved by the disdain in its gaze. He went up to it, yanked off its rope, and started dragging it out. The spotted donkey loudly complained. Wei Wuxian cajoled as he dragged, coaxing it every way possible to move it along. Stepping out into the lightning of dawn, they clattered onto the main road. I love that intro. The one thing from the show that I really enjoy that the book intro doesn't have is the line in the book about how the Lan clan always look like they're going to a funeral. In the show, they give that line to Wei Wuxian, and he says it when he first sees Lan Wangji again, and he's kind of smiling like he says it. So there's this subtle implication that maybe the relationship is more than just enemies. You can kind of get the implication that he likes the guy, whereas in the book, his reaction's like, oh no, like he just has got to get out of there. Which, of course, something that the book does very differently that I do really like is the relationship is way more ambiguous. It takes a while for you to realize what's going on between these two characters. The TV show and the donghua, for various reasons, changed two parts of the story. One, the flashbacks to the past. A major part of this story is going to be, at times, they will flash back into the past and show you events from his life, from his previous life. But in the book, they do that sporadically. It's spread out, so it kind of gives you a little tease, it hints at different things, whereas in the TV show, it's done all at once. You see the entire past, and then it jumps to the future, and you see the future. So it's not that much of a tease, and it doesn't really spread things out that much. Another thing the book does differently is that Lan Wangji does not immediately make clear that he knows who Wei Wuxian is. Whereas in the TV show, like immediately, he's just like, hey, like they know each other. The book leaves it way more ambiguous as to whether or not these two characters recognize each other, and there's this kind of, does he actually care or not aspect going on that I just think the book does really, really well. And we're going to get into, I believe, next chapter, but we will call it there for today. So we have finished 2 chapters. We have, I think, at least 6, 7, 8 to go. We'll continue next Sunday. The next book in the Heaven Officials Blessing series comes out next month, and we've read part of it already on stream, but not all of it, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, because it's book 2. We haven't finished book 2. So, we will also start reading that at some point. I don't know if we'll alternate or not. We'll see when it comes out. No, actually, it comes out in a couple weeks, doesn't it? It comes out in February. So, we'll be doing that. I will move this to the second channel, so if you want to check out the old book reading streams, I've read some Heaven Official Blessing, Scumbag System. We did a little bit of Eldest Princess. We need to get back to that at some point. And a bunch of other things. So check out the book channel if you enjoy listening to people read and discuss things. I plan to be doing more stuff over there at some point, like actual, I don't know, reviews of books, but discussions of books I think would be fun. So we'll do that eventually. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for supporting the channel, especially members like Jeff and Daniel. All y'all are amazing. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.